always in contact with a lot of Australians, including a lot of Australians and Kiwis contacting me. By the way, I don't want any Australians or any Kiwis to take this video the wrong way. I could spend countless hours going on about the million things that disturb me about what's going on in the United States. But I wanted to go over some stuff that a lot of Aussies wanted me to talk about specifically, including a long laundry list. And it doesn't seem to be any coincidence here, meaning there is a coincidence. Not at all. That these are going on the worst in these crown countries of Canada and New Zealand and Australia. I'd like to go over some stuff that I've actually confirmed firsthand too, through phone calls. I was talking with my buddy Harley Quinn. You probably see him in the comments below. Also to another lady that has a lot of family in Australia. She lives here in Kentucky. She has dual citizenship. But also to a lot of emails and asking you Australians what's going on. I saw where that other YouTuber, the Aussie Cossack, was in the hospital because apparently he had bronchitis. They thought it was a pulmonary edema, basically a fancy word for a clot. Apparently a lot of people are showing up with clots at the hospital. Gee, I wonder what on earth the reasoning behind that would be. And actually I think that they're going after him not because he's been going back to his old thing of going after the cops, but he's expressed a lot of pro-Putin stances, and knowing a lot of Aussies myself, I think the Aussies are going after him, singling him out, not just because of his videos, but possibly, and this is pure speculation on my part, that his pro-Putin stance is, well, I mean, it's kind of blatant. I think that's the reason why. Not that he's Russian ethnicity or anything like that. Of course, you could give me your position on this. I was disturbed to hear that he might have a pulmonary embolism. Apparently it's bronchitis, so that's good news. Right now, by the way, on gold and silver, I wanted to talk about this before getting on to Australia and New Zealand, is that there's a guy that deals in rare items, including bullion, and I've talked to one other place, and I didn't know there's like 11 distribution centers. I have actually no money for gold and silver, but I wanted to make some phone calls and actually confirm this, and other people have been saying this too, that the rich are basically more or less out of paper gold and silver. In other words, buying gold and silver on paper, and it's basically impossible right now to get your hands on significant quantities of gold and silver bullion. Apparently the rich right now are getting out of the market significantly and going into gold and silver. I've confirmed this with other places that are not trying to sell me anything. So you tell me what you think about that as far as. So the rich are hoarding it, along with toilet paper and bang sticks, of course. I'll let you figure out what a bang stick and a freedom seed is. They're certainly so doing this. I just wanted to, and I read every comment, to get your position on this, because it's absolutely undeniable. I mean, you don't have a brain at all if you think otherwise. I'm sorry if you think that's offensive, that if you don't think that this CO2 and nitrogen fear-mongering is in a complete and total 100% absolute scam designed to collapse the global economy. I mean, the folks in the Netherlands are the best farmers on earth, essentially, that are being pushed out of their jobs and their farms that they've owned for generation after generation after generation, some of them for hundreds of years, literally. Being pushed off their farms is absolutely about the closest thing to pure evil that I could think of. This ESG nonsense, Sri Lanka, i.e. Ceylon, said that they'd be #1 on this. They were pushing it hard, and I don't know if you're familiar with what's happened to Sri Lanka, but it's imploded, collapsed. Things are really, really, really bad in Sri Lanka. So what's being pushed on the West in these crown countries and Europe, by and large, is the same stuff that Sri Lanka was incredibly eager. Go look up what's happened in Sri Lanka this year and last year. I mean, it's just nothing short of absolute devastation. And most Americans have not been to Australia, and I have not been either. I always wanted to go. When we think of, the crocodile hunter and Olivia Newton-John, well, one's dead and the other one is nearly so dead now. I have a lot of love for Australia, so I don't want any Australian to think I'm picking on Australia or on New Zealand. I really, really don't. I've seen countless videos from Avi Yemeni. Whatever you think of him, I don't care. I'm only interested in empirical facts. He's an Aussie, and lots of other Aussies talking about what's going on, including my buddy down in Australia, keeping constant communication. I was asking him too. And apparently most Aussies are under agreement unless they've had their heads up their rears, or they've been watching the news media of Australia, which is, and I watch myself because I have access to Australian news media. I've never seen such horrific corruption. I mean, we think you got propaganda here in the United States. I've never seen such horrific lies, propaganda, and corruption as I've seen out of Australia. As someone who's lived in the Soviet Russia for a long time, and listened to Soviet propaganda on the radio, Izvestia, Pravda, Sputnik, all these various propaganda wings of the Communist Party, having lived in the very, very heart of it, in Vladimir, Moscow, Leningrad, which of course is now St. Petersburg. Soviet Russia, when I lived there, has nothing on what I'm seeing out of the news media out of Australia. Corruption is completely off the hook. I say, well, you're one to talk, mate. You've never even been to Australia. I know what Aussies hate it when you try to imitate their accent, and most Aussies I know don't sound that way. Humble apologies, but the Australians themselves are telling me this, and I've read so many, literally tens of thousands of comments from Aussies about what's going on, and they're completely disgusted. I have not actually seen one email or one comment from any Aussie that doesn't think that there's this complete and absolute abysmal corruption going on. My buddy was telling me that, and he sent me a bunch of ads about what things are costing. That steaks, like when you buy a little 2-pack or 1-pack of steaks, they got an alarm on them, like an anti-theft alarm on a pack of steaks. Completely ridiculous. He's telling me the disaster of what's going on with home mortgages that are going up $400 plus a week, literally $1,600 a month on these countless non-fixed mortgages in Australia. $35 for a watermelon. I know, having lived in communist Russia, Soviet Union, Bывшего Советского Союза, that I had more freedom living under the Soviet Union than Australians do now. And that is absolutely horrific. I was watching an interview of a person in Israel. Israel's been really nasty, totalitarian, abysmal to its citizens as far as forcing, I'm going to change from stab juice to stab poison. Stab juice, stab poison, whatever you say. They've been forcing the stab juice on Israeli citizens, and this nice, dear, young, beautiful lady. And this is a note to Australians, whatever you think of me in this video, this is really, really important. And the same thing is happening in America, too, believe it or not. Most Americans have not been to Australia. Most of them probably couldn't find it on a map. She was saying, like, how horrible Israel's been treating its citizens, being heavy-handed, totalitarian, but the summation of her story was, well, at least we're not like Australia. Whew, it's really, really bad here in Israel, but at least it's not like Australia. I want Australians to realize for 1 minute, whatever they think of me one way or the other, that, and please, I do love Australians. I mean, I get along so great with them, and I always wanted to visit there. I really have a great love for your country and your people. I really, really do. And I could pick on the United States all day long, okay? I don't want you to think I'm singling out Australia. Australians really need to understand that, I'm 50 years old. Growing up, basically nobody ever talked about Australia because it never makes the news. Same thing with Canada. Australia has become, in a bad way, the shining beacon on a hill of everything that is absolutely wrong with heavy-handed, totalitarian, dictator, strong-armed fascismo, as far as, crushing the little people, if you will. I mean, in a bad way, the shining beacon on the hill. Australia has become that thing that you don't want to be. These countries that are, including the United States, the horrible parts of the United States where totalitarianism has been really, really bad, which is always the blue areas. Chicago, California, Portland, Washington, D.C., New York area. These places that like to really think they have control over the citizens. And the citizens are usually sheep. Bah! And Australia has become a beacon to at least we're not like Australia. At least we're not that. I mean, I don't say that humorously. I mean, you literally hear that. And so have I over the past couple of years. Like, geez, it's pretty bad, but it's not like Australia. Phew, God, thank God we're not that bad. I mean, I don't know how many times I've heard that as an American citizen. Australia is never mentioned here. But it is mentioned in those terms now, so I don't know what Australians think about that, but it's not something to have pride in. It's just not. And I'm not singling out Australia. I don't want any Aussies to think I'm picking on them. I really, really don't. I get along great with them. Really great with them, actually. They said back in August that people with $500,000 to $800,000 mortgages in Australia would see a rise of up to $1,600 a month. Yeah, ribeye as an example in Australia is $40 a kilo, so basically, $45 a kilo, so roughly about $25 a pound, basically 2 pounds per kilo. Endless Australians have emailed me and told me in comments about what you guys are calling Dictator Dan getting re-elected, and I use air quotes when I say re-elected. They don't know how it happened. I could guess, but I won't leave a comment on it, and I really won't be specific about how this... I have not run into a single Aussie that thinks this guy is anything other than pure horrible. So they keep wanting to know how Dictator Dan got re-elected. The tyranny and the suppression of free speech that people have been talking about what's going on in Australia has been completely off the hook. One thing I've noticed, just a really interesting Instagrammer, his name is Cat Turd. We have no idea who he is, but he always posts really relevant stuff on, I'm not on Twitter, but he posts on Twitter and Instagram. His stuff is this is called bodlerization. These people are not smart, and one thing that points out how unintelligent they are the people that keep putting, they black it out. It's like false information. And it says, see why, see post anyway. You click on the bottom, it's like, yeah, I want to see the post anyway. It's like, oh, warning, warning, Will Robinson, this has been fact-checked. Bodlerization, when it was first done about 150 years ago, roughly, it was less than 150 years ago, roughly about there, and it had to do with Shakespeare, when Bodlerization. They were hiding all the juicy bits in Shakespeare. These ignorant, knuckle-dragging, foolish people that hide things and, fact-checked, his post is dangerous, don't look at it. All that does is make you want to see it more. It draws way more attention to it than if they never put this, warning, fact-check, this false information. It's like, now anybody with 5 brain cells, in other words, a total fool, knows, well, there's probably some really factual stuff on here. I'm going to click this post anyway because it doesn't want me to see it. It's just all the more reason why I want to see it. This bodlerization by these so-called fact-checkers, it's become now a red flag, meaning this post contains highly accurate info that we don't want you to see. They've been better off if they just completely banned it. Not that I'm advocating for banning things. Banning it completely, rather than, putting this, it's been fact-checked as false. That's called bodlerization, by the way. Here's another thing on Australia. The mortgage burden has reached 177.5% of disposable income. And it's getting worse. 177.5%. With households now at increased risk of becoming overextended due to mortgage liability, according to the MasterCard Economics Institute. Here in Australia, an extra 1% on a $600,000 mortgage means $6,000 a year more in interest payments. And these are post-tax dollars, so if you earn $100,000, which is a lot, and hence pay an average rate of 25%. That's like taking roughly $8,000 pay cut. Cryptocurrency exchange called Digital Surge in Australia has completely collapsed into a voluntary administration, suspending accounts of around 30,000 Australian customers. That didn't make the news. My buddy in Australia, it keeps telling me about this, and I finally did, a deep dive into it. The Perth Mint, which is the only government-owned mint institution in Australia, is under investigation for money laundering. They do $26 billion a year in gold transactions, and is the only Aussie mint that's government-owned. So apparently they're under investigation for money laundering down at the Perth Mint, down there in Western Australia. WA, as they say, down under. I'm in WA, mate. It's like, well, there is nothing in Western Australia other than Perth, is there? The tyranny that I keep hearing from Kiwis, and I hear a lot from Kiwis, New Zealanders, and as well as Australians, is way worse. New Zealand, from Aussies themselves and the Kiwis themselves, is basically Australia on steroids. The pain, the prices, the tyranny, the dictatorial evils that are coming out of what's her name again, Jacinda. And Kiwis themselves are telling me this. It is 100% fact, not opinion, rumor, speculation, or conspiracy that the WEF and New World Order cabal has completely, thoroughly, and absolutely undeniably, without any question of doubt, infiltrated Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the Netherlands. You notice most of these are crown countries. It's like Australia's been used as a test case for the Great Reset. It really, that's speculation, but I hate to hear this, but I've heard of nothing other than, and I literally have, at great pains to myself, why read like thousands of the same damn comments from Aussies? They are under full agreement, and I've seen so many undeniable videos. Like, there's no other side of the video. It's like, you've seen it, and that's it. Just absolute corruption, tyranny, evil. The stuff that I've seen your cops do. I don't know if Australians can get a handle on the corruption and the evil that's going on down there, but I mean, it's completely off the hook. Listen, I'm no one to apologize, point my finger at Australia. I don't want any Australian to think that, think that I can't single out and spend all day talking about the United States, because I certainly can. But the things that I've seen that are 100% undeniable videos of what the cops are doing, just whipping and beating people out of the blue, just absolute, disgusting, horrific corruption on the case of the police and your elected, I use air quotes when I say elected, your elected officials, is tyrannical. It wouldn't be put up. There would be hell to pay, of all the faults in the United States, okay? If the cops did that here, there would absolutely and instantly, in some cases, be hell to pay. It would not be, it would happen, and then it would, all hell would rip loose here. And yet, this is a reason why the Second Amendment and the First Amendment are so important. There's no Bill of Rights in Australia. You talk about the Magna Carta, countless Aussies, when I bring that up. We got the What good does it do? Apparently it doesn't do a single damn thing in Australia. And this is me expressing actually tough love, and I have a lot of love for Aussies. So kind. I get along with you guys great. I love hearing from you. I always wanted to visit. I mean, if I had money, I've already been to Australia many times. One of my huge microphone fan. I used to do gear reviews on microphone. They're made in Australia. They're 100% designed and made there. Such quality. Even better than German Sennheiser. They're called Rode microphones. R-O-D-E. Made in Australia. I have so much. It's nearly impossible to find anything in the United States made in Australia. That's one of them. I've been trying to get a Rode NTR forever. They haven't made them for years. I'm just so disgusted with the stuff that I see out of a country that I actually have a great deal of love and admiration for, just the tyranny and the corruption. And it is undeniable. I've experienced this myself, and I've seen other videos. People's like, phew, you know, no matter how bad it gets here, at least it's not like in Australia. Whew, man, oh my God, man, they've really got it. Man, there's some real fascism going on down there. The word Australia never really passes the lips of Americans. In my 50 years here in the United States, nobody ever mentions it. It doesn't make the news. Except where we saw those little koalas starving to death due to the big brush fires, you know, screaming like little children. Such a horrific scene, you know, people feeding water bottles to these poor, fried up koalas. Like, oh, you know, that's a tearjerker. And of course it is a tearjerker. It never makes the news. Nobody ever discusses it. But it's, you know, it's like, well, God, as bad as we got it, at least it's not like Australia. And this is not the only country that's doing that. And, you know, I guess because you guys are an isolated country, way down under, along with the Kiwis, that they're using you guys as testing grounds. You're like, you know, the Nevada test ground. I don't know if you've ever seen satellite images where they did all the nuclear tests, where they'd actually dig really deep holes, very, very, very deep, and they would test out nukes thousands of feet underground. So there's all these huge craters on the surface of northern Nevada. I mean, just like they're using Australia and New Zealand as a test bed for this New World Order tyranny. I don't know if you're not bright enough and you really think, because plants require, you know, they create nitrogen and they require CO2. They grow better with CO2. This whole CO2 and nitrogen fear-mongering, you know, like, and New Zealand is literally passing a tax on cow farts. They want to, the Russians did this, the reason why so many Russians starved, because this is communism, by the way, it's just flat-out communism. I don't know if you've ever heard what the culottes are. You know what the culottes are? The culottes are basically Russia's version of the Netherlands farmer and the New Zealand farmer, even though the Netherlands farmers are apparently better at what they do. They ostracized them and they drove them out, and resultantly everybody starved to death. You know, go look up the Russian culottes. They're doing exactly the same thing in the Netherlands that the Russian commies did to the culottes. Now let's destroy the people that are really, really, really good and efficient farmers and like wreck it and like fearmonger this nitrogen garbage. It's absolute tyrannical communistic trash. It just is. I hope there's not enough of a breaking point where people collectively don't have enough intelligence, enough wisdom specifically, to see through this tyranny and evil. But I mean, history is repeating itself. People really do always get the government. I don't want to discuss politics. I hate politics. I hate it, 100% hate it. But I don't want to see a bunch of people starve to death because a bunch of tyrannical, evil people are being listened to and heeded by, you know, sheep out there. Bah, telling you that nitrogen and CO2 is evil and we need to like take the most efficient and best farmers on earth and like rob their farms that have been in their families for generations, you know. Oh God, nitrogen and fertilizer, warning, will rob. This is just pure evil. This is sick communistic filth. It's not my opinion, that's a damn stinking fact. It's sick filth. People are going to starve. People are going to freeze to death this winter, depending on how harsh this winter is or is not. We don't know that, obviously. You Australians yourself, I just want you to understand, I'm not picking on Australia. So many thousands of you have told me, literally, and all the comments, that the corruption down there is off the damn hook. You all are disgusted about it, but you're not interested in fixing it. It's like, oh well, you know, it's really, really bad, or I'm not going to do anything. That sort of mindset, I don't know what's more evil, the people that have got you under their thumb, or the fact that you're so willing to put up with it. I'm asking a question to the Australians and the Kiwis. Not that I think the Americans are any damn better. Well, actually, they are on that front. They will put up to it to an extent, but they won't put up with it, you know, the point that people start starving and freezing. Why are you putting up with this? Like, no. You know, this fear-mongering of fertilizer, CO2, and nitrogen, it's just bunk. It's like, oh, let's we're going to save the planet by, like, starving and killing and freezing many people as possible. If it takes a few hundred million, it's no big deal. That is just evil. I don't care what anybody thinks about me. At least I'm interested in helping people. I'm not interested in seeing anybody starve or freeze. Someone's going to yell at me, "Oh, God, you yelled into the microphone, and I had my headphones on and hurt my ears. I hate you now." Someone's going to say that to me. It just pisses me off. If it doesn't piss you off, then you're a soulless fool. Let me repeat that. You're a soulless fool if that doesn't piss you off as well. I am not interested in seeing people freeze and starve over fear-mongering. It's just sick. It's fascism, it's tyranny. What it is communism. It's sick, sick, sick. And what's even sicker than that are people who are willing to put up with it. "Oh, well, I don't got no power. I'm just a little pissant. The government tells me what to do. I'm just going to say, okay." It's not right. Anyway, tell me what you think. I read every comment. Happy holidays! Yeah. Pisses me off.